In the Book of Proverbs, wisdom is portrayed not only as a divine attribute, but also as a practical necessity for the godly life. Proverbs chapter 1, verse 21 offers a vivid picture of wisdom's proclamation and its accessibility to all people. It reads, "She cries out in the chief concourses, at the openings of the gates in the city, she speaks her words." This verse is situated within the larger context of the initial appeal of wisdom in the opening chapters of Proverbs, where wisdom is personified and actively seeks to instruct those who will listen. This passage invites us to consider the public nature of wisdom's call. The chief concourses and openings of the gates were places of bustling activity and legal transactions in ancient cities. These were spaces where people of all walks of life converged: merchants, travelers, judges, and local townspeople. By choosing such highly trafficked areas for wisdom to cry out, the text emphasizes that wisdom's teachings are not hidden or exclusive, but are proclaimed openly for all who are in the city, irrespective of their status or occupation. The image of wisdom calling out in the city gates tells us that the truths of God are not confined to secluded, sacred spaces, but are relevant and necessary in the public squares and everyday affairs of life. This reflects the belief that God's truth is universally applicable and should permeate every aspect of our existence, influencing how we conduct business, govern society, and interact in our personal relationships. The voice of wisdom in this verse is persistent and unyielding. She cries out and speaks her words, indicating an active, dynamic force. This portrays the Scriptures not as a passive document, but as a living voice that continues to speak into the complexities and challenges of modern life. It compels us as believers to not only listen to this voice in private devotion, but also to embody and proclaim it in our communities and public interactions. The application of this verse today can take many forms, but centers fundamentally on the responsiveness of the listener, how we as believers are to respond to the call of wisdom in our daily lives. Firstly, it invites us to be attentive. Just as the ancient city dwellers would hear the call of wisdom as they went about their daily routines, we too are to be alert to God's guiding principles amidst the noise and activities of our everyday lives. It is easy to become engrossed in the immediate demands of our schedules and tasks. However, this passage reminds us that God's voice continuously calls out to us, offering guidance and insight through His Word. Secondly, there is an admonition here to not only be hearers, but also doers of the Word. It is one thing to hear wisdom's call. It is another to let it transform our actions and decisions. This means applying biblical principles to our decisions, big and small, how we manage our finances, how we treat our neighbors, how we conduct ourselves in our professional lives, and how we contribute to our communities. Wisdom's call at the city gates is a metaphor for engaging our faith in the public domain, asserting that our spirituality is not just for personal edification, but for public witness and testimony. Moreover, this verse challenges us to advocate for truth and justice in our societies. Just as wisdom cries out in the places of legal and commercial activity, believers are called to be advocates of God's truth and justice in our public institutions and systems. This can mean standing for truth in our places of work, in our schools, and in the political realm. It involves promoting justice, equity, and compassion in tangible ways, influenced by the wisdom that comes from God. Proverbs chapter 1, verse 21 serves as an encouragement that God's wisdom is always accessible. It does not hide from us or remain elusive. Instead, it calls out, actively seeking to guide and instruct all who will listen. As we engage with Scripture and seek to apply its truths to our lives, we do so with the assurance that God desires to make His wisdom known to us, to guide us through life's complexities with His unchanging truth. Verse 21 is not just an ancient proverb, but a living, active call that resonates through the ages. It beckons us to live out our faith boldly and publicly, applying God's wisdom to every aspect of our lives and advocating for His truth and justice in our communities. As we heed this call, we fulfill our role as bearers of His wisdom, demonstrating the relevance of God's eternal word in the transient affairs of our daily lives.